We are here tonight with Fights Clean, Sex Dirty TV.
And Relationship Fun and Games.
And we're in episode 5 of season 3, the season of passion. And we're here to talk about how to keep the fights clean during.
Now, as you know, we alternate our content each week between how to keep the fights clean and the sex dirty, because really that's the two categories of areas usually where people are having challenges in their relationship. And furthermore, we categorize the tips into before, as it starts, during, and after, so that you can find the content that's not just in the category, the general area of fights clean, sex dirty, but exactly when you apply it. Because what you do before a fight versus what you do in the middle of a fight, or when one's starting, or when one's over, the same thing with sex, is all very, very different. So we want to make sure that you've got tips that you can pick exactly what's perfect for your relationship right now.
And if you go to our website, our blog posts and our TV show episodes are organized in this way so that you can find the things as easily as possible for you.
Yeah, just look for this logo. So tonight we're talking about how to keep the fights clean during. So this is in the arguments, right? You know, you've already done the work to look at beforehand. Let's create a space. You know, we talked about in this season, we talked about putting an end to negativity so that you're really respecting each other and creating just a culture that's very nourishing between the two of you, so you don't have tension building all the time. And then we also talked about as it starts, right? When you feel the tension building, what you can do to really head that argument off at the pass. Now, sometimes you may end up in an argument and be totally in the heat of it. That's completely different. And so tonight we're going to be looking at what you can do so that you can handle an argument even in the heat of it.
And when you can do that, it can detract much less from the enjoyment of your life and your relationship. You know, when you'll have those arguments and you're in so deep that it can ruin your entire evening or an entire weekend.
Or longer. Sometimes it's harder to get over it. And tonight it's not just us, but we're really excited to have Amy Segreti and her beloved Tony Bacigalupo. I just love these names, which I learned means kiss of the wolf, right? And so we're going to hear from them in just a moment about their bios. Actually, let's go ahead and switch to that screen right now and let's dive on in. And as you know, we love to hear the stories of how people got together, and they're going to tell us their little love story in just a minute. But first, let me just say a few things about introducing them. You know, Amy has this awesome website called Live All of You, and whether it's videos or blogs, she's a writer, she's a coach, and I love this term, she is a lifestyle alchemist. And I talked to her, she has this great idea, this video, this project that she put together called an argument diffuser box, and she's going to tell us all about that tonight. But in general, she, you know, I love this, beautifies communication. I mean, so many people would say, I teach communication skills, but beautifying communication is so wonderful and really helping people honor their inner compass. But we like to interview couples here. Every now and then we have a single person, you know, usually an expert of some sort. But it's the in-between space when you see the couples lean over and kiss each other, or, you know, finish each other's sentences, or jump in to tell the rest of a story. There's just something really precious and special about that.
So let's say a little bit about Tony. Tony is an avid organizer of co-working communities, and he's been doing that since 2007. And he's co-founder of New York City's first dedicated co-working space. Well,
he was, yeah, co-founder of that, but now he's in Boulder. New York had him and got him started in New York. Great ripple effect there, but Boulder's got him now.
Yeah, lucky Boulder.
Lucky Boulder. And he's now a director at Open Co-working, and not just for Boulder, but he's advocating, it's a nonprofit that advocates for co-working worldwide.
And as you might see on screen, he's an award-winning karaoke star, so maybe we'll get a little singing out of him.
We'll find out what his favorite song is here. And they actually work together in organizing a meetup in Boulder, Colorado, the Dynamic Co-working Meetup. So they're not just partners in life, but they share similar passions and are working on projects to make a difference in the world together. So welcome to both of you tonight. If there's anything you want to say about your work, please do that. But also we'd love to hear, you know, about your story and how you got together. And for those of you that want to know more about Amy and Tony, at the end we're going to give you some websites and some URLs, and we'll put them in the comments so they're real easy for you to click and find out more. So yeah, you guys let us know, how did this love story start?
All right, well, I'll start.
Sure, yeah.
So this will help give a little bit story as well. Is it echoing at all? I'm just wondering. No?
Nope, you sound good.
Okay, cool. So I used to run a print magazine. So I'm a writer, editor, and journalist as well as a coach and a lot of other things. And so the print magazine was called Twine, which is about intertwining play and purpose in our lives. And it was long-form narrative journalism published in Boulder. And so when I was publishing that was in 2012, 2013. I wrote an article about co-working, and specifically the Boulder co-working spaces. And so this magazine was print at the time, and so I had the co-working spaces in Boulder advertised on the back of it. So I had all the spaces just kind of lined up and mapped out. And so I then took this magazine to the Global Co-working Unconference Conference in Austin in March 2013 to cover it on a media pass. And so Tony was also there speaking. So that's how we were going to meet. So I'll just go into that story a little bit. So I was in the front row at the conference, and Tony was moderating a panel. And I remember it was the end of the day of the conference, and I was feeling a little tired, and Tony made us all get up and like dance around and jump around. And I remember feeling like slightly annoyed. I was like, I just want to stay here and finish the conference. I ended up later doing that in a talk that I led too. So, but anyway, so I got up and did the thing, and then sat back down and was like, "Who's this guy? Like making me jump up and down?" And then later, at the end of the day, I like to call it a wine tasting, but it was a happy hour, like end of the first day of a conference, happy hour. I went onto the balcony and I saw Tony standing there.
That's right.
That's right.
I annoyed you before I met you. Well, yeah. So I mean, I've been in the co-working business for a long time, and was speaking at this event, and you know, I was actually just on the way back from a trip to Australia, so I was jet lagged. I was out of it, and this was a long trip where I really wanted something different. I wanted a big change in my life. And I had no idea that it was going to be that I was going to find Amy and fall madly in love. But there she was on the balcony, and we've reflected on it since, and we realized that when we met, we had this funny sense of peacefulness, like we knew each other already.
And we were like, "Hi again."
Yeah, it was as if we had already known each other in a past lifetime, and so it was just an instant connection.
And I was holding the magazine with the co-working spaces on the back, so we, kind of remember it as Tony asked me, like, what are what is that? Is that your magazine with the spaces on the back? Like, oh yeah, it's mine, but not mine. Like I bought it at the store. Like this is my magazine. Like I'm the editor. And, so we started talking and.
You insisted on me having a copy of it, even though. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
So it was clear right away, but one of you was in New York and one of you was in Boulder, so you did the long distance. But I think you had told me when we were talking before that it was just pretty instant. You just kind of knew, and it was a matter of kind of catching up the outside to the inside to get you living in the same place.
Yeah, definitely. We, 3 days later, we met for coffee, and then it ended up being like a 14-hour date where we did all the meals, all the drinks. Speaking of drinks, and actually, we were in a space where I had just gotten out of a relationship, so I wasn't, it was kind of like, oh, I'm meeting someone new. I want to be careful and cautious, but my soul knew, and his soul knew, so.
And if you had, we're going to get into some specific tips, your argument diffuser box and some other great ones that you have, but just in general for your relationship, do you guys have, a motto or a philosophy, that has you stay connected and moving towards the relationship that you really want to have?
I mean, we have so many things, really. One of the things, when we met, we were both in one way or another kind of coming out of our previous relationships. We were wanting to kind of get grounded again in ourselves, and when we met, we knew we were in a relationship again, but we wanted to do it right. We wanted to learn, and we wanted to grow, and we wanted this to be a partnership that we could really thrive in. And so I would say, so one of the things we talked about a lot is establishing this rule that we're on the same team.
Oh,
that's a great one.
That's why we have to come back to this fact that we're on the same team.
Raj and I will actually say to each other, go. Team Sandra.
Oh, nice! Yay!
good.
We're Team TNA.
Yeah.
So.
What's your team called?
TNA.
TNA. Nice. We like it.
Everybody loves TNA.
Everybody loves TNA.
But actually, so my birthday was shortly after we met, and Amy sent me a present in the mail because we were long distance, and it was a copy of a book that I'd never heard of before, but that Amy was a huge fan of, called
Have it right here.
Conscious Loving
Love that one.
Book.
by Gay and Kathleen Hendricks. And it was frankly challenging for me at first because I mean it's like a light
It's like
pink
a salmon
book,
pink
and it's
book.
like the journey to commitment. Everything about this was very challenging to me in that moment. And Amy was of course very excited. She I'm like looking at it. She texted me like, "Did you get it?
Happy birthday!
Did you get it?" You know. But this is the thing: is that when you are madly in love, you're willing to do pretty much anything. And so I had all of this masculine resistance at first, but I said, okay, I'm going to open it, I'm going to give this a shot, I'm going to see what this is about, and I read it, and I fell madly in love with the book, and we used it as a tremendous foundation for our relationship.
Yeah, it's a pretty inspiring one. I remember reading that as well. It's one of those books I can actually remember where I was when I was reading that book. You know, when you hear news and you remember where you were, it's a good one.
Yeah, and what a great story. You know, one of the main principles of our work is being proactive in your relationship, and it sounds like from the get-go you guys were committed to being proactive about having your relationship work and be something that you could really nourish and grow together with.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for being here tonight. We're going to dive into the topic. And for the audience, we're going to share a couple of, just point you in the direction of what are the past tips that we've talked about in the previous seasons, just show you where to find those. And then we've got one tip for tonight we're going to share with you. And then we've got, I think, at least 3 tips from Amy and Tony that we're going to dish and explore and do a little scratch and sniff with because they're really fun.
And if you've joined us on our show before, you might know that partway into the show you can join the Hangout Live by clicking the button under the video player. It will say Join Live Hangout. That button will go live for us tonight around 6:15, and we'll tell you when it's live. When it does go live, refresh your browser window so the button.
It'll be a little after 6:15.
Yeah,
We're starting out.
yeah.
So just running a little bit behind tonight. We had some technical difficulties, but the show goes on, as is with relationships. So yeah, go ahead and share that screen, Raj. Thanks. So this is just pointing to previous seasons. So in season 1, we had episode 1.5, How to Tame Triggers and Unhook Even in the Heat of It. And then we had episode 2.5, How to End an Argument in an Instant. One of those I remember was Antonia Dodge and Joel DeWitt from Personality Hackers. So again, all of these have interviewees as well, so you can go and check those out. And we just have some great tips there as well. Now, you also have the blogs if you're a reader more than watching the videos, and so you can go back and it will put the link in the comments right now on where to find all the blogs. The blogs, again, are divided into how to keep the fights clean and the sex dirty, but just go to the fights clean one, and then if you're specifically looking for during, just look for this logo right here. You can see it's fights clean because it's got the halo rather than the devil horns, and the during is all lit up. So any of those symbols will apply to this topic of how to keep the fights clean during. But tonight, we're going to talk about a so-so moment. Now, when we talk about how to keep the fights clean during, that is a more general topic. It's not necessarily that your fight and your argument has gotten a little ugly. But for this tip, we are going to talk about one that when it's starting to get a little ugly. Now, Raj and I in 2014, we had 3 fights. So we said, okay, we're going to have in 2015 only 2 fights.
And when we talk fights, we mean full-blown. We actually categorize as a fight as tears and
yelling. Yeah,
Tears
if there's yelling
yelling.
and tears, that's a fight.
That's a fight. It's not, we have little fights, but that's the big fight.
Little arguments, yeah, that's a fight. But this tip is actually really about when you are in a fight. You know, those doozies that are starting to come up, and we're setting a goal to have less than 2 this year. But when it's those moments that things don't feel so good. You know, maybe you're cranky. Maybe you've been having, the last few days we had some technical difficulties that can cause some stress. Whatever it may be in your life, maybe it's finances or maybe it is tension in the relationship, but often a couple will end up just fighting over nothing. So something that's nothing becomes something, and then pretty soon it becomes something big. And then you may be left with saying, just jump in here, I know I'm going here, what the hell just happened? That's what happened to us. The last time we had a big argument was April of last year. And it was just like, how did that happen? That was over nothing. I was just going on a road trip trying to leave town and trying to say goodbye, and he was busy on a call. How does saying goodbye for a road trip turn into World War III? We literally were saying, what the hell just happened? Now, when you're looking at your arguments, these ones that get difficult, the places to look are how often is that argument happening? Is it like constant every day? Does it rarely happen? Then you're looking at how extreme it gets, how intense it gets, and then finally how long it lasts. So this tip is specifically looking about how extreme it gets. You want to make sure that you have this line in the sand and you're not going further. Now, often in an argument, when one person is fully sourced and nourished and they can handle it, we call that putting on the Teflon suit. You put on the Teflon suit and you can handle whatever upset your partner has. But sometimes you're both really undersourced and you're both challenged and you both need each other. And those are the more difficult times.
And those are when these tools are really handy because you need a lifeline. Otherwise, you spiral down into the depths of despair in these big, ugly arguments.
Now, in these big, ugly arguments, it really is a great opportunity to build trust. If you let it go too far, you're going to just cut trust off at the knees and cause a real big challenge for yourself, right? You're in the future, you're not going to be able to trust your partner that, we can have difficult conversations and it won't get that bad. Or we can have a difficult conversation and still come back from it and connect again. So this is really all about that muscle for expanding the space between your reaction and your actions. We have a reaction, someone says something, we get upset, but we want to pause that space between your reaction and actually taking action.
And this is where this so-so moment distinction really comes into play because you can catch yourself in that gap between the thing that actually happens and the reaction to it. As you can see here on the slide, our lower brain, our amygdala gets triggered, as you see here, in 30 milliseconds. It can totally hijack what we call your thinking response because that one trails a little bit. the initial response is an old reptile brain response, and it's a survival mechanism.
And it is the older part of your brain. It develops much, much sooner than the frontal lobe. When we're developing as human beings, as children, it develops first. In fact, the frontal lobe isn't fully developed until you're in your early 20s. And the frontal lobe of your brain is where you have empathy, compassion, consequences. So like when you yell at a teenager, what were you thinking? They actually aren't because they don't really have the brain chemistry for consequences. And so we turn into not just teenagers but kids, right? It's all reaction when you're in the heat of an argument. And that amygdala starts to hijack and take over. So at that point, you're not really thinking as creatively as you could. And so we create these little short, mini mantras, these things that you can say in a small amount of words, small amount of time when you're really just barely holding on, but that will actually create an opportunity for you to kind of slow things down and communicate a lot with your partner.
And it's like a lifeline. Like, when you're in the heat of an argument, there's a little part of you that's probably saying, help, I want out of this argument.
Where's the ejector
Where's
seat?
The ejector seat?
Stop this crazy ride, right? You went off of it. So Raj and I, when we had that last argument, this was actually not the last one. It was a couple of years ago. We were having an argument where I was going for a road trip and he was staying home, and I'm a total extrovert. I love seeing people, and he needs a little bit more downtime to himself, a bit more of an introvert. And so he was wanting to stay home, and I was wanting him to come with, but I was fine to leave. But when I went to leave and say goodbye, he was on the phone, and as I said, pretty soon it totally devolved until it was like an hour of yelling at each other. So finally, I left after tears and all of that and hurt feelings. And as I was driving, because we always want to keep even better ifing in our relationship, like, what the hell happened? How can that not happen again? And we came up with this idea of this is a so-so moment, meaning it does not feel so good right now. this actually is not nice at all. But it could so easily get so much worse. I am just not in a place to be able to source myself right now. In fact, you know, we call this, did I miss that on the other slide, the ATH? Did you have that on the past slide there?
No, it's
No, it's not on there?
I thought it's coming later.
It was coming later. Okay, I thought it was just those two little ones. No, it's not in there. Okay, so the lower brain and the frontal brain, I probably just didn't put it in there, because look in your relationship. There's probably one person, and Amy and Tony, maybe you can see if this is true for you, but there's one person that's kind of the hurricane. You know, they feel emotions and they kind of express it all. And there's one person who's a little bit more of the turtle. When things get intense, they tend to need to withdraw a little bit, and they need a little bit more space or time to think about it.
And then the hurricane keeps pushing at the turtle, and the turtle's like, leave me alone.
And the hurricane's like, if you cared, you'd deal with this. And the turtle's saying, if you cared about me, you'd give me some space. And that's also compared to the abandoned and the engulfed. So there's usually one person who feels that this is too much, and they usually are the person who's kind of engulfed as a child. They got too much attention from their parents and just wanted some space. And the other, that's not me. I'm the abandoned one. I'm the like, if you love me, we'd resolve this right now. And so,
I'm like, can't you just give me a few minutes?
Give me a few minutes.
To process
give me a few minutes. And so the idea is you want to have a cue that you can say to each other. Either person can say, this is a so-so moment. So if I say this is a so-so moment, then Raj knows that I'm having my abandonment issues triggered, and what I really need is for him to look me in the eyes, tell me it's going to be okay. He just needs some space right now, and give me a specific amount of time. I need 5 minutes, I need 10 minutes, I need an hour, whatever it may be. And then if he needs to tell me, he can say, I'm having a so-so moment, I really need some space right now. So we could just communicating to each other what our needs are, and just acknowledging we are both under-resourced, and this is about to go really south.
Yeah, and having these mantras in those moments, these little phrases that you can use, like this is a so-so moment, I need a little space.
Or if you remember, our stop, shift, start is a really popular one to pull out of an argument. So they're short little things you can say that really mean a lot when you really can't think that clearly.
We were in the middle of a little mini argument today, and this tool surfaced right away, thankfully. And Gabby's question, she yelled up, how much time do you need?
We got to talk, we've got work to do. How much time do you need?
He yelled 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
So I had 5 minutes to get source myself and get my emotions sorted out. So.
And it was pretty great. It was pretty great. So do you guys ever find this happening in your relationship when you see an argument, you know you don't want it to be getting as intense as it is, and how to pull out of it?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, we resonate so much with all the things you were saying. We certainly have our own constructs for it.
You've
I'm sorry?
Oh,
well, he was saying we have our own constructs for it, but yeah, I think, we probably resonate with both of them, but I'm probably more of the hurricane one, and Tony's probably more of the engulfed one, you know? But, you know, we might switch back and forth depending on our moods or the days, but, it can get so intense so quickly, so, we have a couple of different techniques that we do now. It took us, a year and a couple months to figure them out, but we're happy to share those now or anything else.
Well, before we start sharing those new tips, let's just go ahead and turn to the action option, which if you've watched the show before, you know that we don't like to just give you tips. We want to really give you a call to action to jump in. So just kind of hear the Mission Impossible tune in your head right now. Dun, 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 dun. It's like your mission, should you choose to accept it, or your action option, should you choose to accept it. So just look in your own life and your own tendencies, as we just saw Amy and Tony do as well. Which one are you? Are you more the abandoned hurricane fighter, or are you the engulfed turtle flyer? Right? So just check in for yourself. It can be really helpful to know, and notice maybe you're both the same. Usually it's not that case, but it's one or the other, and we're both, but we just have a tendency towards leaning more towards one or the other. Then the next thing you want to do is check with your partner. What do they think they are? You can say, hey, I've discovered I'm an abandoned hurricane fighter, and this is how this shows up. How about you? And just which one that they're leaning towards. then you might ask them, hey, you know, there's this idea of this so-so moment, and just get the agreement that they know what that means. This is a so-so moment, and you're both agreeing to use it. Now, the last two steps, you want to look. We always want to make sure that you're watching out for self-sabotage. So consider what those hurdles might be, and once you know what your personal hurdles are in that dynamic, then go ahead and reinforce that with some reminders, whether that be a post-it on your refrigerator or in your bathroom mirror, or a reminder in your phone that comes up, you know, every day for a month, whatever it may be. But just proactively look at what's going to get in the way of us being successful at this. And then finally, use the this is a so-so moment. Like today, we started to have an argument. It was like, no, let's not do that. And we completely pulled out of it. So that's the action option. And if you want to check out more on the blog, you can see that link there. And we'll go ahead and paste that into the comments. The 6 little words to save that so-so moment from turning so-so ugly. So those 6 little words, this is a so-so moment. Let that be your mantra. Okay, so that's it. Those are our G tips this week, and I'm so excited about the argument diffuser box. And now you have 2 others that we're really looking forward to hearing from you. So, turning it over to you guys. Tell us about this argument diffuser box.
Cool. Okay. Sorry, our water bottle thing makes this noise that sounds really horrible, and it just did it right now. We're like, stop! No! It just sounds like this. Sorry.
Not the water bottle noise.
So I made this box, and I'll show it to you. It's over here. This is our argument diffuser box, and for our, I think it was like 34-month anniversary, I made it for Tony and for me. And what it is so I repurposed items that I had lying around, and this box was the box for a teddy bear that Tony bought me about a year ago, probably. I don't remember for what, but
It was the first Christmas.
It was the first Christmas. And so inside this was a teddy bear. And so now what is inside of it that I put inside a card are a bunch of little scrolls, items wrapped in twine, and inside each one of them is what I'm calling an argument diffuser. So the idea is that when we're in a heated argument and we're kind of going back and forth, or falling down into patterns and can't really get out of it, is that we stop and we just pull a card from here. So say we pull this one. I don't know what this one says.
Why don't I fiddle with it while you explain
it?
Yeah? Okay.
And so each one is designed to take you out of the moment where you're just completely engulfed in an argument and to bring you into whatever that activity is. And they're all really fun. So, and they're also all mostly embodied. So, for example, one of them is called Shake It Off. And that one is just stop whatever you're doing, put on one of your favorite songs, and just dance. You're only allowed to dance. No words, no verbal. Another one is this one that Tony just opened is called the Redirect. And it says, like, let's redirect our energy. If we weren't in a fight, how might we use it?
Nice.
Yeah. They're kind of
redirect, all the arrows. Wonderful.
Yeah, and another one I have that I like is called Animalify, which is like drop what you're doing and get on the floor and start acting like an animal. However you feel, however you're feeling, like just moaning, groaning, like all of that is allowed, but not really engaging in the argument, not arguing or talking to each other.
Oh, I like that one. We actually have gotten a couple of monster hats after we had an argument a number of years ago. We said, okay, if we're going to turn into monsters, we should at least have monster hats. So next time we become monsters, we'll put those on. So honey, maybe next time we can put on our monster hats and then get on the ground and growl like monsters there.
Oh, that's so fun.
I really love this tool because one of the things it helps you do is unhook from, it gets you, it's kind of like, look over here.
Distraction. Yeah. Shiny object, something else to do besides fight. Well, really, it's going back to the interrupting the lower brain, which you're fighting, but you have that moment of clarity. Okay, I can't think of the best thing for us to do right now, but I knew we'd be here, so I created this thing from my frontal lobe. Let's go. I've got a little bit of that ability now. Let me go take one of those, and it's that on-ramp into your consciousness rather than into your reaction.
Yeah, and we call these stop strategies. How do you just put a mini stop to what you're engaged in now so that you can kind of get a little bit of your sense back, and I love these. It's great.
Well, and I love that she said they're mostly about embodiment. And I think when I was reading your blog article about this, you also, maybe it was in the video, you also said something about that these ones are a little bit lower level. Like you're not going to go into a very intense question when you're already worked up. So the fact that these are embodied, mostly nonverbal, way to go. Good job.
Yeah, purposely they're not like, tell me your microscopic truth, vulnerability, like, because we don't want to, because we're not maybe on the same team in that moment. So these are more just like, get out of it.
Right.
Yeah. Wonderful. Awesome.
How
Anything?
about your back-to-back children?
Yeah, you want to show that screen there?
Yeah.
Sure. So Amy discovered this one at when, I guess, during last year's Burning Man.
Yes. I'll put it up. I'm sure a bunch of people are familiar with this image here.
Yes,
So
the Burning Man is just for those that don't know, is a festival in Nevada that attracts almost 70,000 people, and a lot of it is based on art. So you see these huge sculptures with something like this. I saw this one as well, and the little kids also glow at night. Really incredible.
So this was striking to us because it told us, it connected so much to things that we feel and that we've read about when we're fighting, where on the outside we're fighting and we're kind of pointed away from each other and we're really unhappy, but somewhere inside of us is a innocent child who just wants to connect. And so just using this imagery was very powerful, but we actually turned it into a physical practice where in the course of an argument, and again, this is another stop practice, right? It's another way to kind of derail the course of this unconscious interaction. When one of us sort of recognizes that we're in the middle of it and we can't talk our way out of it, maybe the best thing to do is just stop talking altogether and just sit on the floor and open our back to the other and invite them to do the same with us. And so that's actually gotten us out of some really sticky situations in the past.
Yeah, we were in an argument once in New York, and it was getting really heated, and I was actually leaving to go to a workout class, and I was like, I'm leaving, goodbye. Like, I didn't really have to go, but I was doing the kind of flight thing. And then Tony just, like, he just stopped, and he went to the living room and sat on the floor and faced away from me and just, like, sat there. And so then I'm, like, leaving, I'm going, but he's not interacting anymore, and so I'm at the door, and I'm like, oh, and I see him like that, and I see him, and he's just like, he's my love, like, there's his inner child. So I was like, I just put my stuff down, and I sat, back to back with him, and we just sat there for a while and just felt each other breathing, and yeah, and that is what helped end that argument. So.
It helps so much if one of us just drops the armor. And I think that's one of the things that you see when you're in a fight mode is that we've got physically and with our words all this we're ready for battle, right? And but we love each other, right? And so when we can invite the other to have an opportunity to recognize, like, hey, we're just this person and we're vulnerable right now, I think that helps to create the opportunity for us to disengage in a healthy way.
Yeah, and you're also with this child inside, in this picture. You may want to hold up that picture again if you would. It's recognizing that we all have our inner child, right? We're all a bunch of 4-year-olds in a big body to some degree, especially when we're challenged, right? So here's these 2 little 4-year-olds. So when you're in an argument, and I've had someone else suggest this before, that you actually imagine your partner as a 4-year-old. Let's say your 4-year-old is having even a temper tantrum, right? It's not logical or whatever it is, but you still have love and compassion for them. And so if you can see them as this tender, vulnerable, just hurt or scared, rather than, I don't appreciate him talking to me that way. And, we're pretending to be adults when we're triggered. We really are in our vulnerable, hurt 4-year-old and just using whatever coping mechanisms we have to kind of get through it. I love the inner child reminder. We should frame that picture. We like to have physical reminders in places, so we should frame that one and put it somewhere. It's a good one.
We just said that, like, right before the show. We're like, we should frame this and put it above our couch to remind us.
Yeah, I love also how, as you were explaining the back-to-back children concept, it really highlighted what you said earlier about the context of your relationship. That how did you put it for us? We're like on the same team. What was your language around that?
Yeah, yeah, we're on the
Yeah.
same team. We're partners. We're aligned.
So I can just totally feel that when you go back to back, that you're like, okay, we're totally partners. We're not at our greatest selves right now, and that physical contact really allows you to get connected with the partnership. Yeah, nice. And how about this? Anything else you'd like to say about the back-to-back children?
Well, I think it's it's just one of several things that we have that it gives us a chance to stop, right? And one of the things that we try to do is just have as many tools in our toolbox as we can, so that when we're in it, if one of us is upset and the other one isn't, then we can recognize that, right?
Easier.
So evaluating that and say, okay, first of all, where are we at, right? Is one of us reasonably grounded and the other one's more upset? Okay, let's work with that. But if we can recognize, well, wait a minute, both of us are not in a place where we can hold space for the other right now, then we can use a tool. And some tools work better than others, but just having the ability to have that self-awareness, and we have a lot of practices around that, right? Just focusing on the breath, for example, which is huge. Sometimes, Amy, just in the middle of an argument, we'll just be like, stop. Just breathe.
We'll just breathe.
Just breathe. Just breathe.
That's all.
Well, what I love about the breath one is that you never leave home without it. It doesn't cost you anything, right? So when people are like, "What's your number one tip?" and if they've got a budget, I'm like, "Your breath. That's it. Like it's always with you. You can use it at any time." And literally, in as little as 3 deep breaths, you are having a physiological shift. Love that. Now, what about this? And this is also on a physiological level. Tell them about your tuning and heart press.
Yay!
This is great. So do you remember how we started this?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is just going to yoga classes and feeling the sound vibration of oming and then oming again and then feeling it connect more. So I think that's maybe how, but yeah.
Okay, so the basic gist of it is that we try to shift out of words and we try to think about embodied things we can do. This is something we'll do, I think, when we're in a place where we're maybe coming out of the fight a little bit, or we're trying to kind of gain control again. And so we'll physically put our hands on each other's chests like this.
Press and like where our hearts are.
Yeah. And then we'll literally just make a humming sound and try to tune into the others like we're tuning a guitar. So, okay, ready?
Yeah. Yeah. And then we'll do that maybe again, and maybe first time it doesn't
Practicing over here too.
So a lot of times, again, just after doing something like that, it's hard to feel like fighting when you're breathing, when you're harmonizing, when you're looking in each other's eyes, when you're holding each other's hearts.
Yeah, like literally harmonizing, and in a way where it's like we can feel how deeply connected we really are outside of this like superficial argument about bread or something like that. We're like, oh, this is the level that that is our true root connection, and you can feel that in sound vibration, I think.
And what I'm really hearing from you both is this commitment to, not put up with it not working. It's like when something's not working, you're like, okay, we've got this tool. Okay, no, that one doesn't feel good right now, because I could see some people saying like, oh, I don't really want to touch my partner's chest and, I'm angry at them. So there might be another way. Well, okay, I could do the back turn one way. So you've got all these different things, as you said, your kit. And we actually do have a kit. We're traveling right now, so we don't have it with us. But it's this fuchsia and black, like doctor's toolkit kind of bag, and it's on one side is full of all sorts of things to keep the fights clean, and on the other side is all full of things to keep the sex dirty. So it's our little toolkit, and I told Raj in our next house I want to get a little pedestal and put the kit up on the pedestal so it's visible and right there all the time, because that's the whole thing about the amygdala, is we lose our mind. Peoples we love and we cherish and we respect and we have compassion for, and all of a sudden they say one thing and we're in the bad space, and it can be just totally hijacked. So if you practice and have a wide variety of tools available to you and keep them visible, it can make all the difference. But you have to have the commitment. You have to both be playing the game, and you guys are playing the game.
Yeah, that commitment.
Well, and it goes a step further, too. One of the things that I think stresses us out is that we know how in love we are. we know how happy we're supposed to be, and so I think some part of us just gets really upset at the fact that we're not super happy right now.
We're robbing ourselves of obvious joy. There's joy left on the table here.
Yeah, and so, but really, you know, the fighting is a part of a relationship or conflict, right? Struggle, and we have ups and downs. Actually, another book, the Relationship Skills Workbook, which was based off of the teachings of Gay and Kathleen Hendricks, talks about the fact that we're actually supposed to trigger each other as being in a partnership. That, you know, part of what we're here to do is sort of bring to each other opportunities to learn and grow, right?
Yeah.
You know this so well, and I feel like you talk about it. Amy's taught me so much about these kinds of things.
We just came out of Berkeley, actually, this 2 weeks ago, I think, was when it was just released. And it said exactly what you are just saying, that you know, it really is important to not avoid the conflicts. You don't want to be living a life full of toxic interactions, but that we lean in. I call it your mess is your message. So when you're feeling the tension, rather than trying to avoid it, you're looking at it going, huh, what's this trying to tell me? Where's the message in there? Or sometimes you might call it, there's got to be a pony in the horse poop somewhere. So with all that horse poop and it getting stinky, look for the pony. Where's the lesson in it?
Yeah, we're being invited to learn something.
Yeah.
Right? So Amy also introduced me to nonviolent communication. Do you want to talk a little bit about how we incorporate that at all?
Yeah. What?
We love nonviolent communication. Yes, please share with the audience. It's great to hear.
Yeah. So we find it useful when we're at a stage in the fight or in the argument when we can still, you know, use words in a good way. I think of it as like almost like a mathematical form of communicating emotion. Like, you know, for the I'm sure you guys can elaborate on this at another time, but like the 4 points of the sentence of like when, you know, this fact, when this thing happened, I feel, you know, the way that you feel, not like I feel like or I feel that you're a jerk or something like that, you know, and then because I value, and then what we value, and then the request, of course, being would you be willing to do XYZ, making that a request and not a demand. So that formula can be helpful. Also, this especially for me too, because when I get very emotional, I can just get very out of it, and I'm not sure what I'm saying. And so if I can think of that, if we're still being verbal, if we're on the phone, for example, if we're away and we can't do a lot of embodiment things, putting things into that formula can be helpful for us to be able to hear the other and what they're actually saying and wanting and feeling.
Yeah, nonviolent communication is one of our favorite communication tools. I normally turn first to the Imago dialogue. In the Imago dialogue, the basic idea is you mirror back what your partner said, you validate, then you ask them, did I get it, and is there any more? And once they've been really heard, then you validate what they have said. Maybe you don't agree, but you could see how with their thinking and life experience they might have got to that conclusion. And then you empathize. Again, even if you don't have the same experience with them, you're getting into their shoes. In fact, the wedding vow of the month for Raj and I right now for February is I promise to care about your experience and happiness even when it conflicts with my own. So Imago has you really do that, get into the world of your partner, and even though it doesn't do what nonviolent communication does with making requests, it actually, it leaves you, once you've said both people have been heard, often you don't even need to make a request, that you naturally come together with a solution. People both kind of compromise a bit. But we like to add in nonviolent communication because when you do need a resolution and when there is a decision to be made, because it's the observations, feelings, needs, and requests, as you mentioned, and you finish off by actually making a request and seeing if they'll honor it.
So just quickly showing this visually, because some of us learn visually better than auditorially. Observations, just as Amy was talking about, observations, feelings, needs, requests. When I see or hear, and this is purely factual observation,
no judgments
I feel
here.
X, Y, Z, and there's actually a feelings list.
Yeah, and if you can actually just expand your vocabulary of needs and feelings. In fact, last month, Raj and I had made flashcards and put them up on the refrigerator for what are the 7 core human needs. So that when you're feeling a positive emotion, it's because that need is being met. When you're feeling a negative emotion, it's because that need is not being met. So if your partner or yourself is upset, you can look and see, well, what, if you know that your vocabulary feelings and then you know what the needs are, it gives you a really good map. You know, often when we're upset, we don't know what we're feeling or why we're feeling it. And it's hard to even more difficult to communicate it. So if you've got a tool like this, it can make a big difference in getting to the bottom of what's really going on in a calm and loving way where everybody feels heard.
And it really is amazing. I'm glad that you guys brought this topic up, because when you're in that stopped space, like, hey, let's take a break because this is a so-so moment, sometimes I found that once we started studying this tool, I'll go and actually write out this just for myself. And if I go through the feelings inventory of needs not met and just really go through every line here, like angry, what sub-emotions are there, you know, irate, outrage, etc., it totally calms me down because I've been able to put to words my emotional experience. Instead of it just being this big mess in my brain that I keep fueling, I kind of get it out, I articulate it, I bring a level of consciousness to it, and it makes a massive difference. So you
Go
can,
NBC!
You can look up Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg online, and you can find these feelings and needs inventory lists as well as the basic process.
Could you just show this next one here? Actually, maybe it's under the needs. Do you have the needs list? Yeah, click on the needs list. So I just want to point one thing out before we leave here. There's 7 core human needs. Let me make that a little bit bigger. Is that what you're doing?
Trying to.
All right, 1 second. And what I wanted to point out about this, yeah, just move that over to the list, is that of those 7, there's almost more words for connection than all of the needs combined. And, you know, I theorize with that many words for it, it's because it's actually one of our core really important needs. We have a lot of words for us wanting to feel connected. So it just makes sure in your relationship that you're cultivating a sense of connection, because it is a very, very important core human need, and when you don't have it, all sorts of other triggers can come up.
Awesome. Well, that was a little digression.
Little NBC digression here. You can tell we're big fans.
Yeah. We teach that in our business consulting business as well, so that's why we just had that ready. All right, awesome. So what awesome tips you guys have, and just really impressed. You know, I've only known you guys, we've only known you guys very briefly, and you're really on the cutting edge of being proactive about having your relationship work, and you have all these tools that you've created together. Yeah, it's really amazing to see.
Yeah, even your photo here, Raj is showing the screen, you know, the international boundary limit. You know, I love that your hair is blowing in the wind and you're both kind of holding on to each other with this line in between you. And it's almost like in an argument, that's kind of what it's like. There's this, like, boundary limit, and how do we cross it? But you're reaching across the boundary line to connect for this human need. I love that shot.
Awesome. Okay, well, we didn't say that the Google Hangout is live yet, so if anyone would like to join and get in here for a few last minutes and ask a question,
we love answering your questions.
Myself, or
come on in, the water's fine.
Yeah, come on in, the water's fine.
And you can either put it in the comments if you aren't up for going on video, but you're welcome also to hit join the Hangout and join the video, and we can go ahead and take some questions.
And you might need to hit the refresh button on your browser to make that button live.
Yes. Now, but in the meantime, while we're waiting to see if you do have any last questions, and as you know, any of our live events, Raj and I will stay till the end and answer any questions for whoever would like to stay on, because we really do love, and we care. We want you to have the most playful, peaceful, passionate relationship possible. Now, if you want to find out more about Amy and Tony, we have a few different URLs here, addresses, and so we'll go ahead and copy those and put them into the notes there, so you can find out more about the diffuser, the argument diffuser box, and if you're interested in co-working and what they're up to in that realm. And I highly, highly recommend you check out Live All of You. What I loved about that website is there's just a wide variety of topics about enjoying life and listening to your heart. And of course, you've got relationshipfunandgames.com, and we're going to show you just a couple of other specific gifts that we have for you that we'd like to offer you in the next few days.
Before we do that, is there anything that you would like to say about any of these sites? Your argument diffuser box, I think you can find some information about that. Is that right, Amy?
Yeah. So that's the current most recent post on my site. It's on allofyou.com. So yeah, and that post I made pretty. It's pretty full. It's got a video and it's also got some how-tos and then different tools you can use to make it if you're not just using household things, like some, cheaper things, or then some more decorative, colorful things to use to make it with. So yeah, and also we love talking to people about relationship. We can talk about it for forever. So if anyone wants to get in contact with us or talk about fighting or how to get out of fights or anything like that, or long distance stuff, we're very well versed on staying connected long distance for sure. So yeah, you can get in contact with us through the website.
And it's great, this argument diffuser box makes a fantastic Valentine's Day gift. Great if you can whisk your beloved off and go on some trip together. But if you're watching the budget, this is a really sweet thing to do. And I promise you, if you went out and bought a gift versus making this gift, your beloved is going to appreciate this so much more. And not only that, but now you have this tool that you can use ongoingly.
Okay, awesome.
Not to mention the therapeutic nature of just sitting down and doing the, writing the things out and the crafts. I could just see that being really relaxing, having that act of love of putting that gift together. Okay, so to wrap up, we're just going to show you a couple of other things that we have going on. We have a free gift for you. We would like to give you our relationship reset kit. So again, that URL will be in the comments, and that gives you our relationship reset tip, which is a 4-part mini email sequence that will send you really some of our 4 most popular tips, including one of our absolute favorites, the hot and bothered backseat driver, where you will never have to fight about driving in directions again. And we'll also give you the How to Keep the Fights Clean and the Sex Dirty free guidebook, which has at least 20 different tips all laid out, really well organized. So just even scanning, you can pick out the ones that are most applicable in your own relationship. And it'll also give you access to all of the Fights Clean, Sex Dirty TV shows and replays. You can get those by going to relationshipfunandgames.com/getfreegiftsmain.
And then upcoming tomorrow evening, we have our free 60-minute webinar called The #1 Reason Relationships Fail and What You Can Do About It. So this webinar is all about looking at that #1 reason why relationships fail.
Yeah, and if you're in a relationship, you're probably at risk of this happening to you. It's quite common, and in many ways it can be the silent killer that people aren't really paying attention to, and it can kind of creep up on you. So learn what that #1 reason is and what you can do so it's not impacting your relationship. And then on top of that, let's keep the fights clean and the sex dirty, right? Save being nasty for your sex life by becoming that fabulous fighter. And just in general, we want you turned on by your partner in life again. It's just not okay to us, this cliche that relationships are supposed to start as this hot and spicy, fiery, hot coals, and then it just cools over time until it's ash and it blows away and it's gone. We know that your relationship can get better and better, and not just the intimacy and closeness emotionally, but even physically, and you can even have the best sex you've ever had decades and decades into your relationship.
We sure are. We're approaching our 10th year.
Yeah, we have two weeks shy of our 10th anniversary of our first date. 8 years, and just a few weeks shy of that is our 8th wedding anniversary.
So on that webinar, we're going to give you a lot of tips on how to keep the fights clean and the sex dirty. So, and looking forward to next week, we're going to be talking about a really spicy topic, how to keep the sex dirty during.
Yeah, this is the episode that usually makes Raj and I blush the during. We when we talk about a playful, peaceful, passionate relationship, we are best at being playful, second at peaceful, and third at passionate. It's still a strength, but it's so great these episodes. We get to learn from other people. A few of them, after the episodes, we've had some pretty spicy and enjoyable nights.
One of the perks of doing this kind of work.
Yes, and I happen to know one specific tip already that John is going to be sharing that just just kind of blew me away, of holding that space between I've got you and holding the situation and still creating the safety and trust to build surrender with your beloved. So join us next week for John Benson and Rose Cole for How to Keep the Sex Dirty During.
So thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight on How to Keep the Fights Clean During. Thanks again, Amy and Tony, for your awesome insights tonight.
So great to have you guys. You just model so well. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just wanted to thank you for having us on the show.
And happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I loved you said, I think it was our 34-month anniversary, which is so awesome, so lovely to be, there's, any day can be celebrated. In fact, I have an uncle that he and his, they now just got married, but they've been together maybe 4 or 5 years, and they celebrate every Friday as their anniversary. So they'll tell us, it's our 342nd anniversary, and it's just great. Let's just keep making reasons to celebrate each other and love each other, so that we can create a ripple effect of that for other couples and just other people in the world. Thanks so much, you two.
Hopefully we'll see you either tomorrow night at 5:30 Pacific on our the #1 reason relationships fail and what you can do about it, or next Wednesday on our How to Keep the Sex Dirty During episode.
And we'll both again stay on those live and answer your questions, so come and join us. Thanks so much. Have a great night.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.